Denise Winfrey, your host for Politics and You. Today's guest is Lori McPhillips, who is a candidate for Will County Clerk. Lori, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
How about tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Lori McPhillips. I'm running for Will County Clerk. And my background started at the county back when I was 18 years old. I started working there, worked my way through college, got my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, waitressing at Baker Square in Joliet here, and got my bachelor's degree concentrating in business administration. And worked my way up at the county from a secretary all the way up to director of operations to the county executive, where I supervised about 15 county departments and about 1,000 employees as well. I was also a county board administrator, worked closely with the county board, we're on the county board right now. And then also served 4 years as the recorder of deeds manager.
Right, that's when I first met you. You were the recorder of deeds. So then following that, your next public office was county board member?
Correct. I was on the county board for almost 3 years where we served together.
Lori, you're running for clerk of the county. Tell us about that.
Sure.
And what you expect in that position.
The county clerk's office has about 5 or 6 main functions of the office, and most people are familiar with the election authority.
Certainly.
And that's probably the biggest part of it, running fair and impartial elections.
Especially now.
Exactly, coming up very soon. And the other functions of the office are the tax extension office, and that is where all the taxing bodies, being the county board or the park district, your cities, whoever is a taxing body, they get those levies to that office. And then once the state finalizes the rates, they calculate the final limiting rate for the county and all the taxing bodies and then give that information to them. So that's a very critical part of the office as well, because it makes sure that your tax rates are correct on your tax bill and then passes that information to the next county office. And I was very involved with that when I did the county budget for about 12 years. And also when you don't pay your property taxes on time, they go to the county treasurer's office at the tax sale, but then the county clerk tracks those records. So when the person wants to redeem those taxes, they calculate the interest rate. And then another part that a lot of people would be interested in and familiar with are the birth certificates, the vital records, so your birth certificates, your marriage licenses, your death certificates. But then there's also notaries that come through that office. There's almost 500 little separate duties that are involved in the county clerk's office. But the notaries are one, your assumed names, so there's a lot of extra functions as well, but those are the main ones that are involved in that office.
A lot of responsibilities there. So
Exactly.
Tell us what in your background prepares you for this.
Sure. I started working at the county at 18 years old and worked in the economic development department and then worked my way up. I went to night school, went to Joliet Junior College, got my associates in business management, waitressed over at Baker Square on Jefferson Street at night, worked at the county during the day, and then went to night school and ended up getting my bachelor's degree concentrating in business administration, and then got promoted. So I was county board administrator. I was the only staff person for the county board for many, many years and served both Democrats and Republicans, which you have to do in this office, it's a nonpartisan office, and then got promoted to county board or to director of operations to the county executive, where I managed the county executive department. So about 15 county departments, almost 1,000 county employees. I was responsible for preparing and implementing the county's budget, negotiating with all the different elected officials, and putting together a balanced budget, as well as the day-to-day duties of running the different departments, the land use department, emergency management, overseeing the operations of those. The actual departments manage their own offices, but we oversaw all the offices there. And then I was recorder of deeds, so I managed another county office, countywide office, and in that office I did the new computer system and put everything online.
Okay, and recorder of deeds is when I first met you. Was that your first political office?
That was the first time that somebody talked me into running for an office. So,
okay.
And I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it. I like getting things done and doing things and leading, and I think with my 20 years working at the county and then 4 years managing an office, I thoroughly enjoy that.
Okay. So since the recorder of deeds position, you've held some other political offices. What are those?
Yeah, I just held the recorder of deeds for 4 years, and then I was on the county board for almost 3 years. And there was a vacancy in my district, so I got appointed, and then I ran for election, and that was our first female elected district ever. There were 3 ladies. It was Suzanne Hart, Andrea, and myself were in that district. But then after redistricting, that whole area got redistricted. So I went from District 3 to District 13, and then the other one split up as well.
Right. For our viewers, during that redistricting, we at one time had 3 county board representatives in each district. Now each county board district has 2, which is the change you speak of.
Exactly.
So now you're running for the office of county clerk.
Right.
So say more about your hopes for that office.
That it's a really exciting office. There's always something going on in that office, and a lot of it is cyclical with the elections and then with the tax extensions. But it's a management office, and that's how I look at it. That this is the people that have run that office always came from the county, had some kind of an experience, and I think experience working at the county with the policies, procedures really gives an advantage, and that's why it's been run so smoothly with Jan Gould and Nancy Voots, the current county clerk, and then Claire Hartley Woodard, and I actually worked with all 3 of them, so I do have some insight into the office. I used to work with, the clerk is also the clerk of the county board, so I used to work day in and day out with the county clerk, the chief deputy there, and actually did some of the minutes when she was not able to do it a couple times. I took minutes of the county board meetings. So I would go through the office and meet with all the employees. And I did the same thing in the recorder's deeds office, where get to know all the separate operations, because there's so many behind the scenes operations. A lot of people know from the forefront, but not the operations behind the scenes. So get to know those operations, learn all the different duties behind the scenes, and then see if there's ways we can improve them. And sometimes it's nice not being in that department, but just taking a look from the inside. And I have that business background as well, managing a small business. So that when in the recorder deeds office, I was able to create a lot of efficiencies. One of the things we had to print out all these green sheets, we call them, for ownership of property. They print them out every week and mail them to all the different township assessors. When we put the new computer system in, I put a download so they could download those. They didn't have to scan them in. So there's a lot of things that and just like the county clerk's office, we used to give them paper plats of new subdivisions so they could put all the new voter registrations on the map. They had to scan those back in. I gave them access to our computer system so they didn't have to scan those in for the new voter registration. So it's nice to take an outside look sometime and see if there's ways we can create efficiencies. So definitely see if there's ways, like I did in the recorder's office, to create some efficiencies. The employees are a wealth of knowledge in that office, and Nancy, Jan, all the county clerks have added every time a new person came in, there's a new perspective, and they've done a wonderful job just making that office very efficient. But I would look into the cybersecurity. I've attended at University of Chicago a meeting on that. I got a paper from David Orr was involved with it, and some national Homeland Security people are involved as well. So I would reach out to them. There's a lot of free resources out to just make sure that we have the checks and balances as far as cybersecurity in place. And also our system is about 16 years old, the current computer equipment. So review that, see if there's some upgrades that we need to make in the office as well, and still protect our paper ballots, because that's number one, is protecting the integrity of the election system. And those paper ballots are our check and balance for that as well. So we got to keep that system in place.
Okay. So I hear you saying then that your plans would be to look at further technological advances for the office overall, not just for elections, and then at opportunities to look at the process to improve efficiency so that we continue to upgrade the county clerk's office.
Exactly. Technology changes so much, so we just got to keep up with it and keep it right at the forefront.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today, Laura.
Oh, you're
we look
welcome.
forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Today we have as our guest Lauren Stady-Ferry, who is a candidate for Will County Clerk. Thank you for joining us today, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about the county clerk's office for our viewers?
Yes, I believe it is one of the most important and highly visible offices in the county. It handles vital records, all of the vital records throughout the county, so birth certificates, marriage license, those types of documents. It also handles tax extension, but the largest part of the county clerk's budget is the election process. So a very important and very highly visible office for the residents of Will County.
Well, as the election is coming up now, say more about the election process as it reflects upon the county clerk's office.
Oh, like I said, it's the highest part, the largest amount of the budget. There's over 300 polling places, so it's a very large task. The staff does a wonderful job of handling the election process and training the election judges, and it's a lot of work.
I can see that it would be. I'm a deputy registrar myself,
Yes.
which is also handled
Thank
through
you
that
for
office.
doing that. Yes.
Yes. Are there things about the election process as the county clerk currently handles it that you would do differently or would look at?
I think there is a lot of opportunity for an office like this, especially especially for the clerk's office and around the election process. So some important things that I think are that would be a priority for me are access to voting and early voting locations. There are, Will County has seen an increase in population, and we need to make voting, it's a right, and we need to make it as accessible as possible for all of the residents of the county, and make sure that everyone is getting out to vote and empowering our residents and our citizens to exercise that right.
What role would technology play?
Technology is extremely important. We need to stay current on the most recent technologies. I spent the last 11 years working for a Fortune 500 financial institution where we spent a lot of time with cybersecurity and implementing technology projects that have an impact on hundreds of thousands of customers. So it would be very important for me to make sure that we are staying up to date with current technology, having teams in place that can look at things to make sure that the integrity of our elections are secure and that we are keeping up with the most recent technology.
So those skills from the corporate world would be things that you'd bring to the county clerk's office?
Yes, I'm excited to be able to bring those skills that I've been training for. I feel that they're directly transferable into the clerk's office. I spent 11 years in process improvement, so looking at different processes and looking at ways to find ways to make them more efficient. And I think that's something that's important to do in the clerk's office as well. Systemically review all of the procedures and processes that they have in place, and to make sure that we are finding ways to make this office work best for all of the taxpayers in the county. Looking at different ways to do things, having a fresh perspective on things and some fresh eyes is always a benefit, I think, to the residents and the taxpayers of the county.
You mentioned serving the residents of the county, east, west, north to south. What are some of the things you would do to help serve them better or to make them more knowledgeable about the county?
I think outreach is extremely important in our government offices. We do have websites and easily attainable information, but in some areas and some residents, maybe for our seniors or for different areas of the county, maybe people don't like to use their internet as often. I think it would be excellent if we could have some town halls. So as the clerk and the clerk's office, maybe bring a staff member or two that would go out to these different areas of the county and have a town hall that explains when it's election time, or for candidates, the processes and procedures that are in place, even if it's for requesting a vital record of some kind, just going out to these different areas of the community. Maybe they can't make it to the clerk's office, or maybe, like I said, the website doesn't explain it as well as they want it to.
Or some people may not have access to a website.
You're exactly
I know
right.
that we're here in the public library and that's open to everyone, but some people, for whatever reason, may not be able to get here.
Exactly. So I just feel like outreach is very important to all the residents of the county. So if we're able to, if it's a quarterly town hall, or even every 6 months, that we're able to go to a different area of the county and have some staff there and answer questions and explain what the clerk's office does, I think that will be helpful. But we have to make that a consistent process, and we will always be looking at ways to make our website as user-friendly as possible, because technology is how most people see things these days. So we will make sure that we're keeping that up to date as well.
That's a good idea, and I certainly appreciate that. Although being a senior myself and a number of seniors in the county, the technology is important, that's true.
It is.
But the town hall would be especially important to older people who are not as technically savvy.
Yes.
And who like to see a face tied to the information.
Yes, I think it's important as an elected official. In my county board role, I do have some retiree communities where we do hold some town hall meetings like this for different departments within the county. We've sent our health department out there to these retiree communities, so they present the information and the resources that we have available. So it would be something like that.
Okay. So besides your corporate experience, what formal experience would you be bringing to the county? Education, for instance.
I have my bachelor's degree in business management. I actually went back to school as an adult to get my degree, which was an exciting time in my life. It was something I always wanted to achieve. So I did do that in 2015. I graduated with honors with my business management degree. And so I believe that will also help me, look at things in a different light, and it also just gives me a more well-rounded view of the citizens of the county and the needs of people here.
Okay. So now you are currently a county board member, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that your first political office?
It is, yes.
Share something about that background and that experience and how that connects to the county clerk's office.
Absolutely. I ran for office in 2014 and won my race. I was excited for the opportunity to be able to represent. I had been working with some volunteer organizations in the area prior to that, and found that I loved public service, and so wanted to continue down that road. For the past 4 years on the county board, I have done as much as I can to learn how all of the different areas of the county and the government, so all of the different government departments, how they work together. And specifically, the county board has a $50 million budget that we oversee that includes all of the different county offices. So we've spent a lot of time, I've spent a lot of time looking through that budget, as well as the clerk's budget, to find out how their office works, and really just spend a lot of time in each different department learning how that works. So I believe, I'm uniquely qualified because I do sit on the county board currently, and I do know what's going on currently in government and within the county.
Okay. Is there any particular thing that you want our viewers to know about you and this race that you're in?
I'm excited for the opportunity to represent all the residents of Will County. I spend a lot of time out there knocking on doors, talking to all of the residents throughout the county, and I listen. I'm a listener. I'm as simple as that. I go out and I ask questions, and I hear concerns, and I have a lot of different exciting ideas, I think, for the clerk's office. Some in forms of making sure that cybersecurity is an issue. I think that's very important. But I've also thought of some different ideas as far as creating a type of coalition for some different areas in the county who I have spent time at their doors and in their communities, for example, Eastern Will County and Southern Will County, where they have some concerns about being able to make sure that they're out there and they have the access to vote. Some type of coalition where we have residents from different areas of the county to come together and decide and kind of focus on what we can do to make the clerk's office work best for the residents of Will County is something that's important to me. And going out to these different areas of the county with the clerk's office and teaching these different areas what the clerk's office does and how the residents and how they can be served best by the clerk's office. I think that's something very important. I decided to focus on public service last year. I decided to transition from my private sector role into public service full time. It's what I love. I love my county. I love the city of Joliet, and the past year has taught me a lot, and I'm excited to make sure that I listen to all the residents of Will County, and that's what's most important, is that everybody's represented.
Okay. So would it be fair to say then that your focus will be on inclusion, fairness, growing together?
Yes, absolutely. Access for everybody, inclusiveness, like you said, inclusion, and just making sure that we're listening to the residents of Will County and making sure that our government offices are working for the taxpayers.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Lauren. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you.
Absolutely. I would love to come back anytime. Thank you so much for having me today, Denise.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise Winfrey, your host for Politics and You. Politics and You is a forum for voters, candidates, and elected officials to express their positions on and concerns about issues that affect the Will County community. Today we have as our guest our County Treasurer, Steve Weber. Hi, Steve. Welcome to Politics and You.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Denise.
Steve, what we'd like to do today is give our viewers an opportunity to get to know you and to know more about the County Treasurer's office. Can you share some things about that position for our viewers?
Sure. The county treasurer's office is the county's banker, and as you know, we mail out the tax bill. We also cut all the checks for the county, including the payroll, all the bills. This is a $400 million investment office. That's how much money we invest for the county. When the tax dollars come in, we take over $2 billion in, and then we distribute that out to all the school districts, all the park districts, municipals, any taxing body. Yeah, yeah, and I'm quite proud when we reconcile all those accounts, and we have upwards of 100 bank accounts to reconcile every month. On that tax levy, that $2 billion, we were only off 11 cents last year.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
What are some things that have happened since you've been in the treasurer's office that you'd like to share with our viewers?
We've done a lot of new initiatives, a lot of firsts. For instance, in Will County, it's the only county in the state where you can pay your real estate taxes on a smartphone. We developed an app for that. Also, when I came in, I hired a full-time investment manager. That was a new position I created, and I still stayed under budget. So that year, my first year, I returned $240,000 to the budget that I didn't spend through efficiencies.
That's out of the operating fund.
That's out of the operating fund, the corporate fund. That investment broker that I hired handles about half of our portfolio. And we no longer are just in CDs. We are in commercial paper, we're in treasury bills, we're in a lot of safe investments. That's our priority. But to date, since I've been elected, I've made over $45 million in interest for the county. So that helps the whole county operate on a budget crunch when the state revenues aren't coming into us.
Okay, and that's because of the diversified portfolio.
And that's because of a higher yield on that portfolio and churning that money when normally you wouldn't get that without an internal person working that every day. He comes to me at least daily and says, we've got this deal. And the main thing I look at is we don't want to have too many eggs in one basket. So we don't want to have too much money with one bank. So we look at limits and we look at call reports on these banks. And we say, no, let's stay where we're at. We don't want to invest heavier. With the normal treasurer, I like to say I'm the $7 million man. Remember $6 Million Man with Lee Majors?
Right.
Only us wise people remember that show. It was a great show. But when I go upstairs to have my budget meeting, I say I'm the $7 million man because every year I bring about $7 million more interest than you would get with a politician-type treasurer.
Okay. And you say politician-type treasurer. What is your background in terms of treasury?
In terms of treasury, I have a perfect background for this office. It's rather unique. I'm a certified public accountant, so I'm trained in accounting and finance. I also have 23 years as a fraud examiner. I was your elected watchdog auditor before Duffy, so I had 2 terms in there. Some of my fraud cases got published nationwide to train other anti-fraud professionals.
Okay.
And I've got 10 years experience in a community bank. I started a small community bank in New Lenox as a director organizer. So I know how banks think, how they operate, and that helps me negotiate these contracts and these deals with the banks.
I can see how that would.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Okay. What else would you like to share?
I love informed voters, and that's why this show is fantastic, because there's some offices that you need to have. They should have a prerequisite, like the sheriff, you need to be policeman. The state's attorney, you need to be attorney. I think this office, you should have an accounting background, a finance background. It's just too much money. We've had, on both sides of the tables, we've had realtors run it, we've had teachers run it, and basically they just took what the banks would give them. They weren't aggressive, they didn't churn that portfolio. We even invest the tax levy dollars for the 30 days we're holding them. We don't have to. It takes more work. But by doing that, we get to give the schools more money for the kids and hopefully reduce the property taxes by doing that. So we really try above and beyond some of the cost savings since I've been elected. I've saved over $8 million in operating costs.
Wow, that's impressive.
But, well, we put out the printing of the tax bill. We used to do that in-house, and now we just send a data file to a printer. We have a backup if it breaks, so the bills still go out, and we save 20% just by doing that. We used to mail out $16,000 to $18,000 worth of tax bills with zeros on them every year, and we stopped. That's just one quick savings. I'm like, why are we doing that? There's
Why
zeros.
were we doing that?
Because they interpreted the statute as that was a bill. And I got a legal opinion, and I looked at it, and that's not a bill. That's a statement charge. We don't have to mail that out. If you want that one, you can come in and pick it up. For park districts, for exempt organizations, just that alone saves $5,900 this year by not doing that. But there's a lot of things, and my audit background really trained me to say, let's look at all our contracts. We just awarded the contract on a credit card. So if you pay your property taxes with a credit card, you'll have a lower interest rate. The county doesn't get to keep that money. They do, but we bid it out so we can get it lower. And next year it's going to be real nice. For people with multiple homes or rental properties, you'll have a shopping cart where you can actually, and you can structure it like an escrow payment. So you can put those payments, let's say you want to do your credit card on the first one, and you want to pay the next one on your checking account, you can split that all up. You can currently do a prepayment program that you and I were talking about before the show, so you can come in and pay any amount on your taxes when you want. If you want to put $100 down, make it easier, just peace of mind, you can do that now. The ladies at the cashier station are sweethearts. They have a great customer service attitude, so we always get a lot of compliments from our customers that we don't operate like a normal government office. It's even though it's an unpleasant situation paying that big a bill.
Mm-hmm. So a senior like me could, out of my fixed income, pay $50 a month or $100 every month, so that when the time the tax bill is actually due, it's all paid up.
That's right, and that's a good feeling. Yeah. So, and we try to do things a little bit more like businesses do. That's my CPA background. If I'm advising clients how to do something properly, we should follow it at the government too. So that's how a lot of these things came into play. A lot of the firsts, we set up a lot of protective measures with the banks so that nobody can steal the county's money.
Or hack our systems.
That's right.
So for the multiple payments, a person now, we have the payments that are due twice a year, June and September. So if they wanted to do them quarterly instead of monthly, that's an option that's also available.
That is an option that we do now. You can come into the office and get that done in person. We're happy to help you with that. And you can do it on a credit card, or you can do it with a check, or you can do it with cash, of course. Next year it'll be a little bit easier. For those with computer skills, you can go online and structure it. So you can really set it up once, forget about it, have it hit in April, May, June. You could do it monthly. We're pretty excited about it.
Whatever you
Quarterly,
might like.
you could say,
From
okay,
your home.
in June, maybe I need points on my card, get those points, and earn some money back. It's a big bill. Take advantage of it. And it's just peace of mind. And you can print that receipt online. Worst case scenario, you get in a pinch, you can still come in and do it in person.
So multiple options for customers.
It's all about the customers. That's what we're trying to do. A lot of things for the seniors, I made it free because they're on fixed income. So we're trying to reduce the fees and make a difference.
When you say fees, what kinds of things might you be referring to?
Well, there's an automation fee with most offices. Ours, but there's a duplicate bill fee for seniors.
Okay.
That's gone. If you come in and do one of those installments, there's a $2 processing fee because we have to process it and handle it and put it in the system, put it in the bank. I've got an armored truck that picks that up. The one thing that I was really good at was reducing the fees that these banks were charging. In 1 year, I reduced them $25,000. by negotiating with those banks and saying that's too much.
That's money that's available for other things.
Yes, yeah.
So going forward, what can our users expect to see as changes in the treasurer's office?
We're enhancing that application for the payment for people who want to pay with their smartphones, so you can actually do that with an iPad. You can do it with that swipe on your phone next year. Ease of use, continued interest income from me, unlike any other treasurer. I'm going to make the county more money than it's ever seen, just because we push hard with those banks. We are currently investing the OPEB, or the pension funds,
Okay.
yes, for the county. And last year I was very proud to say we were making 12% on those, which is unheard of in a pension investment.
How does that 12% compare with what some others might be making?
About double.
Okay.
And, you know, we get excited about things that most people wouldn't get excited about. If we're talking like 1.5% on a CD, we're through the roof, you know, because that used to be like 0.70. So we continue to watch and secure the county's money. We had some people a couple months ago that I referred to the state's attorney that had our account number and our routing number, and they were trying to pass a check for large denominations, and we caught that and turned it over. The electronic security that I put on those accounts stopped it before it even got processed.
It's a great safeguard.
It is, and really that's what you have me there for, to protect the money, invest it, and get it to these school districts intact and with interest. They've never had that before. So that's what I'll continue to do. Any innovative thing that comes up in the business community, I'm going to put it into place. With my CPA license, we're still one of the most trusted professionals in the world, by nature of that niche. And I have to take 40 hours a year in class. So during that class, I'm always brushing up on what's the latest and greatest in the banking community. How can we do this and make it fit for the county? We even had an opportunity to look at a safe, because all the county's offices bring in their deposits to me daily. I don't think I mentioned that, but like,
No, you didn't.
yeah, like animal control, the parking lot,
So anybody who collects fees
the circuit
or
clerk,
monies.
all those court cases, that money all comes over. So those people bring it over. We were looking at a special safe that would actually transmit and categorize the money, so the bank would know how much is in there without counting it, and give us interest before it hit the bank.
Oh, I see.
So that kind of technology is
On the forefront.
on the forefront. We currently scan our checks in and get those into the bank immediately, so we have machinery to do that, so the checks don't have to go to the bank. We scan them in and they're at the bank electronically. We're also looking at emailing the tax bill. We're accumulating that data based on
So people
last
have
year.
an online option.
So they can get it without postage, and they know they get it because people move. Folks move all around. It's hard to keep track of them. We have this little styrofoam cube that we put in some of our redirected mail or some of the tax sale. If somebody doesn't pay their taxes, it can go to tax sale, and we notify them of that. So when we looked at that, we were doing it certified mail, and that's very expensive and inefficient. So now we do registered mail. It's allowed by the law, and we've saved about $180,000.
So I've heard you say you make an effort to diversify investments at the treasurer's office so that we get the maximum return on the money. And then you're using best practices in the industry to help us look at every possible opportunity to make customers safer, happier, and more comfortable with the way that we run the office. What other things would you like to share?
It's all about results. I grew up in Mokene on a farm, so it's simple stuff like what you would do in your house. Would you do it here or in your business? If you're going to walk the walk, you need to talk the talk. It's simple things like our conference table, and the whole county board uses it. You might have used it. We bought that on Craigslist. because we didn't need something new, something expensive. And it cracks me up when I see everybody in there. I'm like, that was on Craigslist. And it's so
I've sat
expensive.
at it plenty of times.
Yeah, and simple things like just being observant and frugal are when the repairman came in to fix our folder machine when we used to mail the bills ourselves, the first year I came in, he had an oxygen tank on his back. And I said, why? What's going on? She said, that technology is so old, that's the only repairman that knows it. I said, what's our backup plan? We don't have one. And I said, that's horrible. And what happens when he passes away? So that's when we went out and outsourced that. I have fun in this office. You know, growing up, I didn't think I would be an accountant. I thought I'd be a policeman or a fireman, something cool. But I actually get a kick out of this. And we do a 4-10 work week in our office. That's one of the things I did when I was auditor. We're the only 2 offices that did it. Not a lot in the state either, and we do that so my staff can recharge. Have a 3-day.
Explain to our viewers what a 410 is.
A 410, instead of, the standard setup at the county is 5/8. 40 hours is 40 hours. Henry Ford did it way back in the day. It's a 10-hour workday, 4 days a week, and then you get a 3-day on the weekend, so you can take a short trip, you can do stuff with the family, the kids. The first couple weeks are difficult because of your sleeping habits and everything, but after that, I think you have more energy and enthusiasm. Whenever you compress a work schedule, you increase performance because you've got to make those deadlines with one less day. So I see less leave, less sick time with this, and the employees love it. And
So your workforce is staggered, and so somebody always has Monday off, somebody always has Friday off to cut. Or
couple of Wednesdays.
Rotated, or Wednesday, however, but you do 4 10-hour days, which is your 40 hours, so that somewhere in there you've got a business day, like a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, off to do your personal business.
It's tough with a retail counter. We still got to have coverage, but we blend it so that we know and make it work. And if somebody is sick one day, we don't have that coverage, we might have to pull somebody in. So yeah, it gets a little challenging, but I got 21 people in there.
Okay.
So
So you're able to make a difference for not only for the customers, but for your workers as well.
yeah, it works.
Okay.
So far, so good.
So share with us your thoughts about the Treasurer's Office, what it should be, how it should be, what it can become.
The Treasurer's Office is really the comptroller for the county. They should communicate very heavily with the finance department and the county board, and we do that. They keep us, when they have a big build out like the courthouse, we sold those bonds in record time. And I like to invest local, so if the Forest Preserve, John Girls, an old college buddy of mine, if he's doing something, we go back and forth. So you really need to see the trends. Right now, banks are loaning money because of our new economy under Trump. It's exploding, and they want county money. So they want to loan it out and make higher interest on it and make their money. So I see those leading indicators because I'm in communication with the bank. And when the county comes to me and says, ooh, we got this big union agreement for the sheriff that we got to fund, we need some cash. So they talk to me and they say, Steve, we need $40 million. What's that going to do to our investments? And luckily, every month I have a $10 million ladder that goes out to the banks, the local banks, and they give me prices. And we have a little whiteboard and we grade it. They actually come into the office and they try and peek at our whiteboard to see where they're at. If they're going to lose, and we go, you can't look at the whiteboard.
Oh, okay.
So we joke about it. And so that's really, the Treasury office is almost like Wall Street. It's like a mini Wall Street. But then again, it can be simplistic in terms of, we need to make payroll this week. How many checks we got, somebody didn't get their check, or somebody paid their property taxes. I had one man last week that paid their property taxes 30 times online. Kept hitting the button.
Oh, because hitting the button.
So, and even if you came in to make one of those prepayments, like you're thinking about doing, if you overpaid, we would just refund you that money the next year.
Okay, so, the next year, so you
Yeah.
wouldn't take it off right then and send the refund?
No,
You would put the next year's taxes against it first?
correct.
So once it's in your office, it's in your office?
It's in the office. But you could come in and see us.
Okay.
Yeah, we make
And
accommodations.
I might get my money back?
Yo, you will.
Okay. So, thank you for being our guest today, Steve. We're here today with Steve Weber, who is the treasurer for the County of Will, and I am your host, Denise Winfrey, at Politics and You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, this is Politics and You. I'm your host, Denise Winfrey, and we're joined today by Tim Brophy. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for joining us. Tim, you're a candidate for Will County Treasurer, is that right?
That's correct. Yes,
Tell
indeed.
our viewers a bit about that.
Sure. Well, I got on the ballot in April at the county convention. There was no Democratic candidate for treasurer in the primary. And so I was happy to answer the call of my party and step up and accept the nomination for this role. And so I'll appear on the November ballot as the Democratic candidate for Will County Treasurer, challenging the current incumbent.
All right, good. Well, tell us what about your history makes you suited for this position.
Sure. Well, I started my career in banking right out of college,
Okay.
and learned the retail banking business and mortgage lending and such. Spent a few years at different banks in town here, and then went out on my own with a couple partners, opened Dow Mortgage and Dow Real Estate. We did
Okay.
that for several years here in Joliet, and then in 2011. I had a little bit switch of a career, went to work in the association management world. And so I manage a team of 11 in a medical specialty society. It's about a $15 million organization. And so we take care of the research, advocacy, meetings, continuing education for about 8,000 spine specialists around the world.
Very varied background.
Mhm.
I believe that I read that you attended the University of Chicago.
I
What
did.
was your focus there?
Sure. My focus there was public policy. I waited a few years between college and grad school because I wanted to get some business time under my belt. And so 4 years after graduating, I went back to the University of Chicago. I did that on my own. I had no employer support. I did, as I used to joke, it was 40,000 miles, $40,000 in 4 years to get that MBA. And so that's what I did most of those 4 years from 88 to 92.
I also went back to grad school later in life, so
Okay.
I know what that's like,
know.
doing that.
Yeah.
So now this position as the treasurer, the current treasurer is a CPA, and over the years I believe that some of our past treasurers have been. Are you a CPA?
I am not. I'm not.
Okay.
I have an MBA, and I think it's important to understand why these countywide positions in the system of government that we have are elected positions, and don't require. They have no prerequisite. So, except for the state's attorney, who must be a lawyer, these other countywide offices are open to any citizen who wishes to step up and be the voice and the eyes and the ears of the people. And so this job, much like the clerk and the coroner and others, are management positions. You need to be available, taking care of the day-to-day business of the office, putting the right people in places. The treasurer's office, of course, may have accountants or CPAs on staff, but remember, the county auditor does the CPA job of the county business.
Okay.
The treasurer is managing the flow of money from taxpayers to holding accounts until distributed to all the taxing bodies on your bill. And that job specifically does not require a CPA.
So what else would you like to share with our viewers about yourself and your candidacy for the treasurer's
Sure.
position?
Well, I'm running for several reasons. One, I have public service in my DNA. I grew up here in Joliet, son of a fireman and a nurse. And Dad, of course, had that schedule of 1 day on, 2 days off. And on those 2 days off, they did a lot of volunteering. They did a lot of projects around town helping out. I remember when they built the swimming pool at the Guardian Angel Home, the old orphanage. And all summer long, I'd get in the truck and go over with Dad. And while the firemen were, digging the hole and doing the hard stuff, It was my brother and I had the job of keeping the guys, you know, those little things, running and getting the tools and running for this and running for that. So we did our thing when we were little, helping out there. But that taught me the importance of caring for your community, volunteering in your community, reaching out to help those less fortunate in your community. Mom was a nurse, and several other family members were nurses, and so they cared for the sick in the community, all of them at St. Joe's mostly. And so when I grew up, that's what I wanted to do. I had public service in my bones, and so in 1985, just a year out of college, I ran for the Joliet City Council. Now, I didn't win that time,
Okay.
but it did ignite, you know, that interest, and so 10 years later, I ran again, and I did win. Those years serving on the City Council, I did it for 16 years, were very educational. I mean, as you know, well know, the representing folks at the local level, you get to know the most important things to those constituents. The hard things about their life, the help they need, the challenges they have, the struggles they have with neighbors and with finances and everything else. And it was a pleasure. I loved every minute of it, because whether it was chasing another skunk or trying to figure out how to finance a $25 million baseball park, there were challenges of all degrees in the City Council, and so I enjoyed being the representative of the people there. So I've been out for a few years, and so coming back to it now is exciting for me. I look forward to it. The knocking on the doors and shaking the hands, you know, when they open those doors, they're always nice. There are a lot of nice people out there, and they're willing to greet you and talk to you if you make an effort.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm thankful that so many people around our community are willing to do the work of public service. It is a very necessary thing, and our community certainly deserves the very best. Thank you for being our guest today on Politics and You.
My
And I'm
pleasure.
your host, Denise Winfrey.
My pleasure. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, I'm Denise Winfrey, your host for Politics and You. Today's guest is Lori McPhillips, who is a candidate for Will County Clerk. Lori, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
How about tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Lori McPhillips, and I'm running for Will County Clerk. And my background started at the county back when I was 18 years old. I started working there, worked my way through college, got my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, waitressing at Baker Square in Joliet here, and got my bachelor's degree concentrating in business administration. And worked my way up at the county from a secretary all the way up to director of operations to the county executive, where I supervised about 15 county departments and about 1,000 employees as well. I was also a county board administrator, worked closely with the county board, we're on the county board right now. And I also served 4 years as the recorder of deeds manager.
Right, that's
county
when I first
office.
met you. You were the recorder of deeds. So then following that, your next public office was county board member?
Correct. I was on the county board for almost 3 years, where we
Okay.
served together.
Lori, you're running for clerk of the county. Tell us about that
Sure.
and what you expect in that position.
The county clerk's office has about 5 or 6 main functions of the office, and most people are familiar with the election authority.
Certainly.
And that's probably the biggest part of it, running fair and impartial